Hey, this is for all of you who are working diligently on Occupy New York, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Tampa, Occupy all these cities around the world in the country. There's one place we all need to congregate at, and it's on December 5th, and it's San Francisco. Let me tell you why. Patrick Byrne, CEO of Overstock.com, filed a lawsuit against Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch. Now, this is a huge lawsuit, and Patrick himself has said that he isn't settling on this, and he's got the mother load of evidence. So I say we let him know in the courts while he's in there, we support him, and we tell everybody, the whole world's watching. You got me? The whole world's watching. We're going to be right there, standing outside, waiting for the verdict. Because you know what? This all has to come to an end. Everybody's tired of the greedy guys on Wall Street taking our future, stealing our future, taking all the money. It's got to come to an end. And Patrick Byrne is kind of like my Pecora Commission of today. The Pecora Commission was an attorney out of New York who went after J.P. Morgan at the end of the Depression, and he turned the whole thing around. We can do that again today, but we all need to get together, and we need to get behind him. His lawsuit starts December 5th in San Francisco, okay? So we support Occupy San Francisco on December 5th. The whole world's watching. I'll see you guys there.
How do stocks trade? Grandma on the left has savings. The fellow on the right has stock. Grandma's going to buy the stock with her savings. The money in stock has to change hands. That's called settlement. Suppose they do a trade when it's time to settle. Grandma's money settles through the system, but something comes up that blocks the fellow from settling his shares through the system. There could be all kinds of legitimate problems. He might be using paper stock and it's stuck in a bank vault. Maybe he signed the wrong piece of paper on some form. One reason or another, he can't settle the trade, and you don't want the system to just grind to a halt. So the system creates an IOU. But note, it's not an IOU for money. It's an IOU for stock. It gets sent through the system. Grandma doesn't see that as anything other than normal stock. Her brokerage account says that she holds stock, not an IOU for stock. In most respects, the whole system just sees this as normal stock. Assume that on day 4, the blockage clears up, the fellow is able to send his stock through the system, and he wipes out his IOU. Great. Imagine, however, that a guy shows up who wants to game the system, taking advantage of this loophole I just described. He's a villain or a miscreant. I paint his desk red to remind you he's a miscreant. Performs a trade with Grandma. 3 days later, her money comes through the system. But he says, you know what? Something's blocking me from sending my share. So he creates an IOU and sends it through the system. Does it again, and again, and again. But imagine he doesn't really have a blockage keeping him from settling his shares. In fact, maybe he doesn't have any stock. What he's doing is gaming the settlement system so that he ends up with Grandma's money, and all he's done is issue some stock IOUs to Grandma. He's failed to deliver the stock that he sold. That's a strategic failure to deliver. It's strategic in the sense of deliberate. It's not an honest error. He just exploited a loophole.
So, who are the most likely suspects? That's easy. Hedge funds. There's a small handful of huge multi-billion-dollar short-selling hedge funds with the resources and capacity to naked short on the level seen here. The people behind these hedge funds are among the richest in the world. They live in houses like this in Greenwich, Connecticut, this one in the Hamptons on Long Island, or this one right on Central Park in Manhattan. In fact, this guy, and this guy literally do live in these houses. In financial circles, they're treated like rock stars, and the New York financial press fawns over them in ways that would make a real journalist blush. Take, for example, the way CNBC gushes over short-selling hedge fund manager Jim Chanos, who is also head of the Coalition of Private Investment Companies, the U.S. hedge fund industry's primary Washington, D.C. lobby organ.
In a Squawk exclusive for 2 hours, our guest host today, legendary investor and founder of Kinnikos Associates, Jim Chanos. He's also chairman of the Coalition of Private Investment Companies, a large hedge fund body. Is Kinnikos an island? What's Kinnikos? Chanos is going to be an island. You could certainly buy one now.
The president and founder of Kinnikos Associates, and he is with us for the rest of this hour. Jim, guest host today, hedge fund manager Jim Chanos. Jim, we've been talking about how the short-selling ban expired at midnight. Hedge fund manager, short seller Jim Chanos, he's been here talking with us throughout.
We've been saying our honor editor Charlie Gasparino is breaking bread and probably eating steak with one of the most powerful men in the hedge fund industry today. He's at the New York City's Club A Steakhouse with a Power Lunch exclusive with famed short seller Jim Chanos, the chairman of the Coalition of Private Investment Companies and president of Kinnikos Associates. It's all yours, Charlie. Take it away.
You know, we're having way too much fun here, but we're going to have even more fun.
We have one of the titans of the hedge fund industry. Jim Chanos is the famous short seller.
The Brookings institution holding a forum to figure out the role that hedge funds are playing in the economic crisis. It was a stretch, but joining us first on CNBC Hedge Fund, Jim, it says here, it doesn't, we know what we call it. I call you Mr. Shorty. You don't like that, really, but we're going to call you a hedge fund. We're going to make it big this time. Hedge fund titan.
Boy, that's tough objective journalism, huh? Recently, it was reported that the hedge funds run by this guy, and this guy came under investigation by the SEC after emails surfaced in which the three of them jointly conspired to do something overtly illegal. No time to give details here. If you want to learn more, check out deepcapture.com. The blog, by the way, that first obtained and published the incriminating emails months ahead of anybody else. But anyway, here's how CNBC reported on that story. Yeah.
I think the phrase I would use would be red herring. It sounds ominous, it sounds nefarious, and by and large, it's a non-issue in the marketplace. If we're going to find out that there are fails in the system due to widespread naked short selling, it's going to be due to the brokerage houses, and some of my best friends are prime brokers, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be due to the back office problems at the brokerage houses, not the hedge funds.
Try to fix my bank before it blows away. Give me back my money that you lost today. Give them 700 billion. Give them 700 more.
Issuance of investment-grade corporate.
Give them power, mighty Caesar never had.